Good morning, dear students. Sania Fule, Ahmad Khan, Sanika, Arya, and Mrodula. Good morning to all five of you. Manas B, Krutika, Omkar, Prajwal. Good morning to all of you, dear students. Let's begin our lesson today. What we saw yesterday was uh, Ranga is back home after his higher study in Bangalore. So when he returned home, there was a lot of curiosity among the villagers to sort of uh, see him, to meet him, and to also examine whether he has changed or has remained the same like before, because there is a misconception among the villagers that if a person from a village goes to stay in a city, then he takes leave of all his values, all the sanskars that he has got from the village, right? So that is why there was such a huge crowd around his house to catch a glimpse of Ranga to see whether he had changed after his return from Bangalore after pursuing his studies there. So when they could see that there was no change in Ranga, then they dispersed slowly. Okay, they dispersed slowly, right? So now and then the narrator said that he had once, like he said, narrator is now bringing or drawing his attention or drawing our attention to the fact that to the aspect of Ranga's character. Okay, so the narrator is now drawing our attention to the aspect of Ranga's character, right? So he says that Ranga is a very, very, uh, what is that called? Uh, Valued person, okay? And like he has all the good characteristics that a boy of a value should have, right? So let's find out what he says. He says that whenever he Ranga met the narrator, he bent low to touch his feet, right? And then the narrator blessed him with the sentence, "May you get married soon. May you get married soon." I said, blessing him. After exchanging a few pleasantries, I left. That afternoon, when I was resting, Ranga came to my house with a couple of oranges in his hand. A generous, considerate fellow. It would be a fine thing to have him marry, settle down, and be of service to society, I thought. Then the narrator, as I told you, narrator was very much convinced by the behavior, by the attitude, by the values that Ranga has embedded in his character, right? So now the narrator is thinking about bringing about a marriage, bringing about uh, Ranga's marriage. Okay, so let's find out. A generous, considerate fellow. He was a generous and a kind fellow. It would be a fine thing to have him marry, settle down, and be of service to society, I thought, right? For a while, we talked about this and that. Then I came to the point, Rangappa, when do you plan to get married? I'm not going to get married now, he said. Okay, so he said, I'm not going to get married anytime soon. The narrator had a different idea, like he is a good, uh, his studies are over, he's a cultured fellow, he's a valued fellow. So why not bring about a marriage or bring about a marriage so that he settles down to his family life Okay, but when he asked Ranga, Ranga's opinion was quite different, right? Ranga's opinion was quite different. Ranga said that he is not interested to get married anytime soon. So let's see how the narrator reacts on hearing Ranga say that he is not interested to get married anytime soon. So let's see. For a while, we talked about this and that. Then I came to the point, Rangappa, when do you plan to get married? I'm not going to get married now, he said. Why not? So the the narrator reacted by saying that why not? Why don't you get married now? I need to find the right girl. I know an officer who got married only 6 months ago. He is about 30 and his wife is 25. I am told they will be able to talk lovingly to each other. Let's say I married a very young girl. She may take my words spoken in love as words spoken in anger. Okay, so this is the reason that Ranga gives actually. Okay, so when the narrator asks his opinion or asks the reason as to why he is not interested to get married at the moment, then Ranga replied that I need to find the right girl. Okay, I need to find the right girl. Ranga is not interested to get married to a very small girl because in those days there was a, you can say there was a tradition that a 12-year or 13-year-old girl was also given marriage, okay, or a 12 or a 13-year-old girl also used to get married. So Ranga is not in favor of marrying a very small girl of 12 or 13 years. Ranga is not interested to get married to a girl of 12 or 13 years, right? Yeah, 12 or 13 years, right? So he is giving the logic as to why he is not interested. So you see, I know an officer who got married only 6 months ago. He is about 30 and his wife is 25. I'm told they will be able to talk lovingly to each other. Let's say, okay, so uh, he's giving the reference of this officer because the officer has got married with a girl who is not very younger to him. So there will be some mental compatibility between both of them. On the other hand, on the other hand, Ranga is apprehensive about the fact that if he gets married to a young girl, then she will not have the mental compatibility with Ranga, and in that case, if Ranga says some words in love, she will understand this as words spoken in anger because she will not understand the meaning of his words. Okay, so that is why Ranga is not interested to get married to a very young girl. Okay, so recently a troop in Bangalore staged the play Shakuntala. Okay, now Rangappa will give reference to a very small girl being married at a very tender age, and uh, let's see what he says. Recently, a troupe in Bangalore staged the play Shakuntala. There is no question of Dushyanta falling in love with Shakuntala if she were young like the present day brides is there. What would have happened to Kalidasa's play? If one gets married, it should be to a girl who is mature, otherwise, one should remain a bachelor. That is why I am not marrying now. So, he thinks that he is just 22, 23 years old, so he will not get a suitable bride for him. Okay, and he is not interested to get married to a 12, 13, 14-year-old girl. So that is why he is giving such instances. He is also referring to the instance of Shakuntala. Okay, he is saying Shakuntala. There is no question of Dushyanta falling in love with Shakuntala if she were young. Okay, uh, like the present day brides is there. What would have happened to Kalidasa's play? If one gets married, it should be to a girl. Okay, so he says that there should not be a mismatch between a uh, boy and a girl. Mismatch in the sense of age, mismatch in the sense of mental maturity. Okay, a girl should be compatible mentally or intellectually compatible enough with the boy he is getting married to. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, the relationship will end up in disaster. It will end up in failure. That is why Ranga is interested to wait for some more years so that he gets a mature bride, you can say, okay, or a girl, right? Okay. Now you see, dear students, earlier this drama or stage play was very common. You might have heard about the staging of one act play or like staging of uh, uh, plays very often on the stage. When we grew up, we also had the privilege of seeing some of the stage shows. Okay, uh, beautiful stage shows. Okay, in the role of Ramayana, in the role of Rama, Lakshman and Sita, Ravan. All these roles were very much abundant. People used to play from the scripts from the the acts scenes from Ramayana or Mahabharata, and it was very entertaining. Understood? It was very entertaining. People, after having finished their dinner, they would have gone to see such theater being staged, being played on the stage, and people loved this sort of, because in those days there was no television, no serial. Okay, there was no entertainment. That is why people used to go in large number to enjoy such stage shows. Okay, which is to usually happen at night, right? So now, of course, the craze has gone down, but still it is there. Theater is there. Theater is reviving now. Okay, not the Bollywood theater. I mean to say, it is a kind of a stage show actually. Okay, stage show. So anyway, is there uh, is there any other reason a man should marry a girl he admires? What we have now are arranged marriages. How can one admire a girl with milk stains on one side of her face and wetness on the other, or so young that she doesn't even know how to bite her fingers? So uh, Ranga is not at all in favor of being married to a very young girl because he thinks that there is no mental compatibility, uh, with the girl, with a very young girl or a small girl. Okay, so he does not seem to endorse the child marriage. Okay, so that is why he would prefer to wait for a few years before he gets married. Okay, one a neem fruit and the other a bitter gourd. Okay, so that is the comparison. Exactly, Rangas. Okay, now uh, Ranga said that it means it is the narrator's statement. Okay. Now, one name. Okay. Exactly, Ranga said, laughing. I was distressed that the boy who I thought would make a good husband and had decided to remain a bachelor. After chatting for a little longer, Ranga left. I made up my mind right then that I would get him married. Okay. I was distressed that the boy who I thought would make a good husband had decided to remain a bachelor. Okay. After chatting for a little longer, Ranga left. I made up my mind right then that I would get him married. Right. So the narrator was a bit distressed. Why? Because he thought of arranging the marriage of Ranga, but he seems to be uninterested for this. Okay, After chatting for a little longer, Ranga left, and then the narrator made up his mind right then that he would get him married. Okay, let's see what happens. Ramarao's niece, a pretty young girl of 11, is a neighborly person, Ramarao. Okay, so Ramarao's niece, who was a pretty girl of 11 years of age, had come to stay with him. She was from a big town, so she knew how to play the veena and the harmonium. She also had a sweet voice. Both her parents had died, and her uncle had brought her home. Ranga was just the boy for her, and she the most suitable bride for him. So the narrator has found a, a beautiful match for Ranga. Uh, so the girl that was selected for Ranga was the daughter of a neighbor called Ramarao. So Ramarao's niece, a pretty girl of 11 years, had come to stay with him. She was from a big town, and she was from a big town as well. So she knew how to play the veena and the harmonium. So she knew how to play the instruments as well. So the narrator thought that Ramarao's niece would be a better match for Ranga. Let's see how Ranga reacts afterwards. Okay. She also had a sweet voice. Both her parents had died, and her uncle had brought her home. Ranga was just the boy for her, and she the most suitable bride for him. This is what is the you can say impression of the narrator, right? So narrator thinks that the name of the girl is Ratna. Actually, Ratna. So Ranga thought that that girl was the most suitable bride for Ranga. Okay. Since I was a frequent visitor to Ramarao's place, the girl was quite free with me. I completely forgot to mention her name. Ratna, it was. The very next morning, I went to their house and told Ramarao's wife, I'll send some buttermilk for you. Ask Ratna to fetch it. Okay? So, now the narrator was a frequent visitor to Ramarao's house. Therefore, the girl was also very free with him, quite friendly and comfortable with the narrator. Her name is Ratna, and the very next morning, the narrator went to Ramarao's house and spoke to his wife, saying that I will send some buttermilk for you. Ask Ratna to fetch it. Okay, Ratna will fetch it, so that Ratna and Ranga can see one another. Okay, let's see what happens after that. Ratna came. It was a Friday, so she was wearing a grand sari. I told her to sit in my room and requested her to sing a song. I sent for Ranga, and then he sent for Ranga. When Ratna came to his house, he has sent for Ranga. While she was singing the song Krishna Murti in front of my eyes, Ranga reached the door. He stopped at the threshold. He did not want the singing to stop, but was curious to see the singer. Carefully, he peeped in. The light coming into the room was locked. Ratna looked up and seeing a stranger there abruptly stopped. Right? So, when uh, Ratna started singing, Ranga also came in between. In the meantime, she was looking at the threshold of the door, did not enter immediately, otherwise, the girl will stop singing. So, he did not want the girl to stop singing because she had a pleasant voice, she had a very magnetic voice. That is why, probably, Ranga did not want the music to stop, the song to stop. He did not want the singing to stop, but was curious to see the singer as well. Carefully, he peeped in. The light coming into the room was blocked, right? When Ranga peeped in the light that was coming from the opening of the door was blocked. Then Ratna looked up and could see the stranger. And on seeing the stranger, Ratna abruptly or suddenly stopped her song. Right? So, dear students, as you can see here, uh, like what man proposes, God disposes, right? Like Ranga wanted to listen to the song of Ratna for a longer period of time. But unfortunately, Ratna was very sensitive to the light that was coming in the room. And as the light got blocked, she looked up and then could see a stranger, and then she stopped singing. Right? Then she stopped singing. So, dear students, now let's proceed. So, Sania, Arpita, Omkar, uh, what do you think? What kind of a boy do you think Ranga is? Can anyone tell me? Uh, do you like the personality of Ranga? If yes, what is that you think is there in the personality of Ranga that makes him uh, makes him makes us feel close to him, or that makes us sympathize with him? You can say, or that makes us favor him. What do you think? What do you like in Ranga's character? What do you like in Ranga's character which makes you feel comfortable with him, makes you feel close to him, comfortable with him? Can you please text me one or two sentences before I proceed to the next sentence? Can you please text me what are the personality traits of Ranga that has made you develop a kind of a liking for him? There's no response, so let me continue. So, suppose you buy the best quality mango, you eat it slowly, savoring its peel before biting into the juicy flesh. You do not want to waste any part of it. Before you take another bite, the fruit slips out of your hand and falls to the ground. How do you feel? Ranga's face showed the same disappointment when the singing stopped. Right? So see what a beautiful example he has given. He said, suppose you buy the best quality mango, you eat it slowly, savoring its peel before biting into the juicy flesh. You do not want to waste any part of it. Before you take another bite, the fruit slips out of your hand and falls to the ground. How do you feel? Ranga's face showed the same disappointment when the singing stopped. When the singing stopped, singing by Ratna stopped, Ranga's face also became similar to that. Okay, because Ranga did not want Ratna to stop singing, right? Suppose, okay, this is over. You sang for me, he asked as he came in and sat on a chair. Ratna stood at a distance, her head lowered. Ranga repeatedly glanced at her. Once our eyes met, and he looked very embarrassed. No one spoke for a long while. It was my coming in that stopped the singing. Let me leave. Okay? So, Ranga said, it is due to my arrival to your house that the singing stopped. So, let me leave so that the singing again starts. Words, mere words. The fellow said he would leave, but did not make a move. Okay, the narrator says that Ranga said he would leave, but he is not leaving. Okay, he did not make a move. He said it was due to my arrival that the singing stopped, so let me leave. But words, mere words only. He did not leave, make a move. How can one expect words to match actions in these days of Kali Yuga? So Kali Yuga, in these days of Kali Yuga, how can one expect words to match actions? Okay, so this is a humor part from the writer's point of view. Okay, every 100 years, dear students, yoga yoga changes. Okay, so now it's Kali Yuga. Oh, Kali Yuga. Okay, so Kali Yuga is considered to be uh, not so remarkably good one, where human beings will become selfish, they will become materialistic, there will be violence, there will be uh, you know chaos in the society. So the narrator says that uh, in these days of Kali Yuga, how can one expect words to match actions? It means Ranga did not go. He wanted to go, but he did not go. Ratna ran inside, overcome by shyness. After a while, Ranga asked, "Who is that girl, Swami? Who is that inside?" The lion wanted to know. When Ratna went inside, overcome by shyness, Ranga asked the narrator, "Who is that girl, Swami? Who is that inside?" The lion wanted to know. The he goat who had taken shelter in the temple replied, "Does it matter who I am? I am a poor animal who has already eaten 9 lions. I have vowed to eat one more. Tell me, are you male or female?" The lion fled the place in fear, it seems. Right. So it's a kind of a anecdote actually, okay, between he goat and lion. Okay, so the narrator has made a story between the lion and the he goat, right? So it's a very nice reference. Like the he goat, I said, what does it matter to either of us who she is? I'm already married and you aren't the marrying kind. Okay, he said, the narrator said, doesn't matter. Okay, I'm already married and you aren't the marrying kind. So you are not likely to get married. So what is the use of knowing the identity of the girl, right? See, she's Ratna, and here in another room, both the narrator and Ranga were talking to each other. There is a harmonium in the room, and Ratna was singing. But as he came immediately, Ranga, he came suddenly, therefore, her singing also stopped. Very hopefully, she asked, "She isn't married then?" His voice did not betray his excitement, but I knew it was there. "She married a year ago." So the narrator replied to Ranga that the girl was married a year ago. His face shriveled like a roasted brinjal. After a while, Ranga left, saying, "I must go. I have work at home." I went to our Shastri the next morning. Shastri means here the astrologer. The narrator went to their astrologer the next morning and told him, "Keep everything ready to read the stars. I'll come later." I tutored him in all that I wanted him to say. So, from this statement, we can understand that the astrologer or Shastri has been told everything that the astrologer was supposed to tell when uh, the narrator asked him in front of Ranga, so that uh, Ranga believes what astrologer is saying. Okay, because see, astrologer will say everything that is happening in the mind of Ranga because the narrator has already told him what to say. So whenever what is happening inside us is said by somebody. In that case, we tend to develop a sort of a faith or a trust in that person, right? So this is what exactly is going to happen. Okay, let's see how it happens. I found no change in Ranga when I met him that afternoon. What is the matter? You seem to be lost in thought, I said. Nothing, nothing's wrong, believe me. Headache? Come, let's go and see a doctor. I had no headache. Yeah, I am my usual self. I went through the same thing when the process of choosing a girl for me was going on. But I don't think that could be a reason for your present condition. Ranga stared at me. Come, let's go and see Shastri, I suggested. We will find out whether Guru and Shani are favorable for you or not. Guru and Shani means they are the you can say they are the stars. Okay, they are the those who believe in astrology. They believe in the position of Guru, Shani, and all this. Okay, so and in those days, people used to believe in all this astrology and all. So Ranga is now. Uh, sorry, the narrator is asking Ranga to accompany him to Shastri's house where they would come to know whether Guru and Shani are favorable for Ranga or not. Ranga accompanied me without any protest. As soon as Shastri saw me, he exclaimed, "What a surprise, Shama! Haven't seen you for a long time." So, dear students, we come to know about the name of the narrator. His name is Shama. Okay, the name of the narrator is Shama. What a surprise, Shama! Haven't seen for you for a long time. Shama is none other than your servant, the narrator of this tale. I got angry and shouted, "What? Only this morning Shastri completed my sentence. You finished all your work and are now free to visit me? Had he not done so, I would have ruined our plan by bursting like grains that are kept in the sun to dry. I was extremely careful of what I said afterwards. Okay, so the narrator has to be careful, otherwise Ranga might understand. Okay, therefore Shastri will talk most of the time. Narrator will keep quiet for a while. Shastri turned to Ranga. When did the young son of our accountant clerk come home? What can I do for him? It's very rarely that he visits us. Okay. Take out your paraphernalia. Our Rangappa seems to have something on his mind. Can you tell us what's worrying him? Shall we put your science of astrology to the test? So now the narrator says to Shastri, you take out your paraphernalia. Paraphernalia means might be his astrology book and all that, okay, which is required to calculate the position of stars and all that. To all this, then they have a looking glass also, with the help of which they see the lines on the palms also, right? So that is what is called paraphernalia: astrology book, looking glass, I mean magnifying glass and all that. So there was authority in my voice as I spoke to Shastri. He took out two sheets of paper, some cowries and a book of palmyra's leaves, saying, "Ours is an ancient science, Aya. There's a story to it, but I won't tell you the story right now. This is not a Harikatha which allows you to tell a story within a story. You may get bored. I'll tell you some other time." Shastri moved his lips first as he could, as he counted on his fingers, and then asked, "What is your star?" Ranga did not know. "Never mind." Shastri indicated with a shake of his head. He did some more calculations before saying in a serious tone, "It's about a girl." I had been controlling my laughter all this while, but now I burst out laughing. I turned to Ranga. Exactly what I had said. Who is that girl? It was your humble servant who asked the question. Okay, so the narrator was asking this question to Shastri. Who is the girl who is troubling the mind of Ranga? Okay, because astrologer has already been fed by, instructed by the narrator what to say, what not to say. The astrologer has been given the complete background information of what Ranga is suffering from. So Ranga is suffering from the thought of Ratna. So this information has been given to Shastri. That is why Shastri is very easily telling this, asking such questions, and then to make it more convincing, narrator is also adding something or the other, okay, to the statement of Shastri. So who is the girl? The narrator asked. Shastri thought for a while before replying. She probably has the names of something found in the ocean. Kamala, maybe. The narrator says. Could it be a patchy moss? Must it be moss if it's not Kamala? Why not Pearl or Ratna? The precious stone? Ratna, the girl in Ramarao's house is Ratna. Tell me, is there any chance of our negotiations bearing fruit? Then, when Shastri was giving some information about Pearl or Ratna, then the narrator said, Ratna, there is a girl by the name of Ratna in Ramarao's house. So, is there any chance of our negotiations bearing fruit? Definitely, he said, after thinking for some time. So, after thinking for a while, Shastri replied that definitely your negotiation uh, with Ramarao will certainly bear fruit, will be successful. There was a surprise on Ranga's face and some happiness I noticed. But that girl is married, I said. Then I turned to him. His face had fallen. I don't know all that. There may be some other girl who is suitable. I only told you what our Shastra indicated, Shastri said. We left the place. On the way, we passed by Ramarao's house. Ratna was standing at the door. I went in alone and came out a minute later. So, dear students, as you can see here, as you can see, uh, now both the narrator and Ranga left the place. On the way to their house, they were passing through Ramarao's house, and Ratna was standing at the door. Then the narrator went inside the house of Ramarao alone and came out a minute later. Right? So, dear students, what happened afterwards, we shall come to know in our next class. Right? So, dear students, it's time you take. Let's wind up our class now so that you can take a little while. You can take rest for a little while and then again attend the